Blessed to be with you. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up, the city of Boise will appeal the homeless camping case to the Supreme Court. Are you down with that? In addition to that, taking your calls about the issues that matter to you, Treasure Valley. Blessed to be with you, waking up on the right side. Out to Washington, D.C., Cassie Smedley joining us from the Republican National Committee. Cassie, it's been a while. Thank you for joining us.
I know. Good morning, Kevin. Great to be with you.
You know, Blair's okay, blah, blah, blah's okay, but you're our girl, so we appreciate.
Well, I appreciate that, but we've got a good team.
You
we
do.
like to freshen it up for you all.
I'm with you on that. I guess that's what in the NBA they would call that load management. So,
sure, we'll go with that. I'm not a big sports person, but thanks for teaching me that.
No worries. Speaking of sports, it seems like recently the California State Democratic Convention, it seemed more like a pro wrestling match than anything to do with electing delegates and getting ready for 2020. You had people booing and screaming and all sorts of nonsense.
So much for we're going to be a different kind of Democrat primary. We're not going to go after each other. We're going to be positive about our party and our Democrat values, but leave it to California to throw those things out the window. But that was really something. And I think that it also highlighted, too, though, that California itself is having a lot of issues as a state, and it's just a mess all the way around.
It is, but it really seems to focus in on, I guess you have three camps. And Cassie, you know more about this than we do, but you've got the 2020 hopefuls that are just trying to promise anything. You've got, Nancy Pelosi trying to keep it all together. And then you have maybe the forgotten Democrats, those that Joe Biden are trying to appeal to, the so-called Trump-Reagan Democrats.
Well, that's right. And I think that's an accurate way to lay it out. And then I would put one more wrench in that group, and that's the AOCs, the freshman Democrats, who just get to go out there and say what they want and do what they want because they are running in these bluer than blue districts. And those are the ones that these other quote unquote moderate Democrats, or at least those who have moderate toss-up districts, should be the most upset with, because they're not allowing them to get anything done, work with the president to get anything done. And they've got a really tough reelection. I think that's where the majority hangs in the balance for the House. And then, as you say, you go out there with the 2020 candidates who are going to increasingly take up more oxygen. And again, there's no room for moderates in the Democrat Party right now. Even Joe Biden is far more liberal and progressive than he's ever been, at least publicly, in any of the prior times that he's run for president. I mean, just look at where he went just 2 weeks ago when he went back on the Hyde Amendment and said he'd be okay with taxpayer funding for abortion. That's a hugely radical position that has now become mainstream in today's Democrat Party, and again has left no room for a moderate in the Democrat Party.
Well, if that continues, what does that mean for the 2020 elections? You talk to folks around the country. Cassie Smedley joining us, KIDO Talk Radio from the RNC on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. What does that mean about the chances of regaining the House?
Well, from my humble perch over here, I think it's pretty good. Because here's the deal. If the economy continues to do well, that's obviously great news for President Trump. And if he can, some of these things that are in the works right now, especially with working out our trade deals and such, if we can get anything remotely done on those, or a deal with China, or even if it doesn't include Congress, because it doesn't seem like Congress wants to give him that win, but there are still things the president can do to make things easier and better for our job makers and our farmers. And if he can get that done and keep the economy going, that's great news for President Trump. And that's going to be hard for anybody else down the ticket to compete against him and to compete against that record of accomplishments. And so that's good news for Republicans down the line. And then conversely, if President Trump isn't able to get some of those things done because he doesn't have a Congress who's willing to work with him, and let's remember, it's not that they're not willing to work with him because you're talking about issues that they fundamentally disagree with. There's bipartisan support for passing the USMCA. There's bipartisan support for passing an infrastructure package. Nancy Pelosi is not willing to do it, because there's too much pressure in her caucus not to give Donald Trump a win, not to work with Donald Trump. And that's a big loser for them. So I see this as a win-win situation for President Trump and, frankly, Republicans down the ballot in 2020, because at the end of the day, We want people who are going to get in there, fight for the American people, and fight to get things done that help us improve our lives. And Democrats are not showing a willingness to do that right now.
Yeah, you have to wonder what direction they're going in, getting ready for their big first debate. And, again, there are many faces of the Democratic Party. Who really will emerge?
Right. And I think it's interesting who will emerge even on those debate stages, how they're going to do it and mix people up, because frankly, I think that gives an opportunity for someone who's polling at near zero to maybe have a moment. And conversely, Joe Biden, who seems to be the anointed one, to be shown as a pretty weak candidate and certainly not the right man for the time in today's Democrat Party. So I'm right there with you. I've got my popcorn pre-popped to watch these debates. They're all going to pull each other further to the left. I think we're going to see more of kind of that raucousness that we saw in California, where the gloves are off, the deals are done. I think they're going to go after each other because they've got to dwindle this crowd down to one. And you can't do that by playing nice and pretending everybody agrees on the issues. They're going to try and call each other out.
When we take a look at what is next? Obviously, the continuing resolution comes up in September, October. We've seen this plan before, Cassie, where the Democrats are going to try to make the president look like he's not doing his job, putting up roadblocks, funding the border wall. How concerned are people, or should they be, about this funding the continuing resolution that's coming up in September, but that'll just be a couple months away?
Right, be here before we know it. Well, the American people should be concerned in the sense that if the Democrats, again, show that they're not willing to do the work because politics are taking the day, that's bad news for us taxpayers. That's bad news for voters and constituents, because that's a whole long list of things that didn't get done because politics took over. I don't think anybody questions that President Trump is showing up and going to work. You see it and literally hear it from him every single day. Meanwhile, it's a lot harder to break through if you're a rank-and-file member of Congress, especially, as I mentioned, those freshman Democrats who are in districts Donald Trump won in 2016. How are they getting the news back home that they've done anything for their constituents? They're not, because they haven't been able to, because the oxygen in the room has been completely taken over by the battle between Nancy Pelosi and the impeachment instigators and the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes. There's nothing on the Democrats for the People agenda that has been accomplished. Meantime, President Trump has a very long list of things that he's doing for the American people, not the least of which has resulted in a very strong economy, the deregulation, the tax cuts, the working with our allies, and some people not so much our allies like China, to get a fairer playing field for American businesses. That's all stuff that President Trump is doing, despite the fact that Democrats in Congress won't help him in the day-to-day. So he's got a nice list of accomplishments to show how he's fighting for the American people. And so far, Democrats are only going to be able to say they fought President Trump. And I think there's a clear decision for voters on who you're going to send back to Washington.
Cassie Smedley joining us from the RNC. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Finally, the crisis on the border continues, and yet the Democrats do nothing about it.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, it seems we have a theme emerging today of the do-nothing Democrats. But it's unfortunate because this is a crisis. You've even got the people who had been the naysayers, the mainstream media, they're now admit it's a crisis. You see the numbers each month. It seems to be that we're breaking more records of migrants coming to our border. And now you've got President Trump who's saying, work with me on this. Let's do something about this. The Democrats continue. Not only are they not willing to work with him, they keep going further to the left of abolish ICE, tear down the walls. Let's completely have an open border, which makes no sense, especially in the face of the reality of the crisis that's happening down there right now. And so now you've got this conversation about imposing tariffs on Mexico. I think President Trump is right. Do I think that he wants to impose these tariffs? No, I think this is a last resort idea. But what do you do when you've got a neighbor to the south who's a good economic partner but seems to be getting all the benefits of being neighbors with the United States without having to actually be a good neighbor in terms of protecting their own southern border to prevent these thousands of people from crossing through their country to come to ours? I agree that the president has got to put it out there that he's willing to do whatever it takes to get this under control. I hope, and I think the president has said as much, that it does not come down to actually imposing these tariffs. But I would not call him a bluffer. We know that he does what he says he's going to do. So, and I think we can all agree there has to be that moment where it cracks and we can get this thing under control.
Cassie, as always, we appreciate you. You have a great day, and good to have you back in the rotation.
Thank you. It was a real gift to be back with you, and enjoy the rest of your week.
You too, ma'am. Take care.
Thanks.
There we have it. Cassie Smedley joining us from the RNC. Update from Washington. Coming up next, the city of Boise suing the homeless suing back. Could this go to the Supreme Court? We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus your calls on a variety of issues as we wake up on the right side here at 580-5436. 580-KIDO. The medical marijuana people continue to promote their agenda. If you go to our website, KIDOtalkradio.com, another state is looking at legalizing marijuana, medical marijuana. I really, and maybe I need to find this before the end of the program today, the clip that and I can't play this clip enough, with Bill Bennett and Mark Levin, where they're talking about, they're discussing how medical marijuana is the Trojan horse into legalization. Maybe we'll get to that. A lot going on today. Liberty Linda, hang on. You're in the bullpen. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up, the city of Boise plans to appeal to the Supreme Court on the anti-camping ordinance. Should people be allowed to just camp out on the sidewalks? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Portland. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Our time is 6:20. Kevin Miller in the morning. KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM. 580 AM. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Good morning, Kevin. You know, Kevin, I don't know how many times I've called in and said President Trump put the military on the border. Well, now we have a conservative judge that has seconded what I was saying all along. Finally, a judge with common sense. I was so excited to finally hear common sense in our country with all of this insanity that we've been having on our border. You know, this judge finally ruling that we can put the military on the border. So I'm going to be like Max this morning, Kevin, and say, what you think, Kevin?
Look, the border is a situation that has not been addressed. It is getting worse. It is getting worse, and it's getting worse. You've got now people from Africa coming in. From all the word is out that they're trying to get in. They break the laws. They take advantage of our compassion, and it's not right. And the Democrats, they don't want to do anything about it. The Democrats just want to sit idly by as America dissolves from too many people coming into the country illegally. Put the military on the border, and once again, if the Mexican government can't figure out where the border is, and if they try and detain any of our people, well, then we as a nation have a sovereign right to defend our military and defend our people.
You're absolutely correct. Absolutely. You know, we have a right to defend our country and what's this insanity that's going on. I wonder, though, now, of course, the Democrats will be against this. They'll fight this. But I was wondering now if he will continue to do the tariffs on the Mexican government.
Well, I don't think that he has a choice. And for too long, people have taken advantage of our country. And for too long, Liberty Linda, as you know, this program has been the flame of truth in the Treasure Valley when it comes to talking about the Chinese. Today is the 30th anniversary of Tiananmen Square. Now, in China, they don't mention Tiananmen Square. In China, it doesn't exist. So if you're a 20-something in China, or even a 30-something, you've never heard of how the government came in with their weapons, fired on their own people, killed who knows how many, maimed how many, imprisoned how many, because the Chinese government doesn't play fair. And for the free traders in Idaho and across the country that have always argued about how great China is the great ripoff. That's really what it comes down to. And President Trump is the only one who understands what they really are.
He is absolutely an unbelievable president that we've needed, and especially at this time, Kevin, for myself, I can only speak for myself. I am so thankful he's our president. And he decided to run. Here he is, a billionaire. He could be on an island somewhere enjoying himself. He doesn't have to do this. If people would only understand that, he's been a blessing for our country that we've needed. And all I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you. Your show is absolutely marvelous. Love your show. Love you. Love Ray Amaya and Jeff the Suit, all of you. Stand up for what's right in this country, and it's a pleasure, it's an honor to call in, and it's an honor to listen to you every single morning, Kevin. Thank you so much for what you do.
Well, thank you, Liberty Linda. And, that's why, I admire our friend Tommy Ahlquist. I mean, Tommy could have just done his own thing, but he gave and gave and gave. And unfortunately, the people of Idaho decided to go somewhere else with someone else. Governor Little doing a great job, but, Tommy Ahlquist, Donald Trump, I put them in the same sentence.
You know what? I do as well. And I think Tommy Ahlquist should run for president after President Trump steps down. You can be vice president, and you have to be on the radio though from the White House, and we'll still listen to you every morning.
That sounds good to me, Liberty Linda. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO, KIDO Talk Radio Time, 625. Let's find out, how you're going to get to work safely and on time. KIDO Talk Radio, traffic and weather together. Good morning, Dave. And I'm Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, the City of Trees could be going to the Supreme Court. Before that, the president takes a royal bow.
Between sticking his nose in British politics and fighting with the mayor, Trump hasn't made the greatest impression, which probably explains why the British haven't exactly rolled out the red carpet.
Unlike President Obama, this is the interesting fact, unlike President Obama, President Trump was not invited to stay at Buckingham Palace. Yeah, when asked why, the Queen said, "We're worried about our property value."
Trump and the First Lady had afternoon tea with Prince Charles and wife Camilla. Hey, you're that guy that tagged Princess Di, right? Up top. Queen Elizabeth gave Trump a first edition copy of Churchill's World War II book. Look, thank you so much, but don't tell me how it ends.
Why would you give Donald Trump a book? Everyone knows the man doesn't read. I wish I was there when the Queen gave him his gift. She was like, "Here you go, Donald, a book about World War II. It's like, wow, this is sad. Yes, many lives were lost. No, I mean the fact that I have to read.
There we have it. The late night comedians just show how out of touch these folks are with mainstream America. You go back to Jay Leno. Now, a lot of people think that Jay Leno's material was safe, but Jay Leno never talked politics. Johnny Carson never talked about politics. And if you don't know who those folks are, YouTube them. They're very entertaining. Without those folks, you wouldn't have the bottom feeders that we do today in late night television. It comes down to this. Why did the NBA and their ratings drop so much? Because it got political. The NFL, the same thing. We want to be entertained by these folks. We don't want to sit there and, again and again and again, be reminded of things. And, it comes down to fairness. Now, there used to be something called the Fairness Act, that if you had a conservative on, you'd have to have a liberal on. And then the Fairness Act was eliminated, and you had the rise of talk radio. Now, liberals have tried to be on the radio, but they're not entertaining. Who wants to be depressed all the time, right? That's what the libs say about this show. But there is no fairness when it comes to the late night folks. These are just mean comments. And if people had come close to saying that about President Obama, they would be fired. There were a number of conservative local talk show hosts that were targeted and eliminated. Most notably, thanks to being here, I was on that list. I was targeted. They took me out. They blackballed me. They destroyed my livelihood. Why? Because I dared call Obama for what he was. And as we've said for years, almost 10 years on this program, at 580-5436, did Obama make America greater? Did Obama make your life better? And these late-night snarky comedians that go after the president, just mean-spirited trolls. Now, here you have the president being honored, and all they can do is do the yuck for the quick laugh. So we'll get back to that. But coming up, should people have a right to be homeless in your city? By homeless, I mean put a sleeping bag on the sidewalk in front of your business or in front of a restaurant, as you see in Salt Lake and Portland and some of the other more progressive cesspools throughout the West. Is it time for Boise to embrace that? Shockingly, Boise's fighting back, and this case could go to the Supreme Court. We'll tell you about it next, plus get your reaction. Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Maggie. Well, let's see if we can get into some trouble. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. This week is, next week? We've been hearing about this for quite some time. Pride Week in the Treasure Valley, right, where we celebrate the LGBTQ plus in the Treasure Valley. Now, Kevin Miller lives most of his life through watching the television, and I was watching this show on CNN. Maybe you saw it, probably not. It's called The Shades of America, and you've got this guy who's a comedian, African-American. He goes to places. So he goes to Salt Lake and makes a lot of jokes and talks to the LGBTQ folks. Talks about how Utah and Salt Lake is progressive and how religions don't get it and all that certain thing. And I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to phrase a question, and I'd love to get your response to it. And we'll probably do this again in the 8 o'clock hour. But I think your voice needs to be heard, and maybe social conservatism, maybe family values are being redefined in America today as I continue to struggle with this cough. I don't know how many of you have had the same dry cough. It sounds like a dog coughing, right? I'll spare you the sound of it. I'm sure, again, you get that a lot. But here we have the powers that be in the city of Boise. They've got the pride flags up. Now, as I've noted, and again, I don't know if it's being compelling. I don't know if it's being the tip of the spear or just being a dope. I always seem to have these observations. Last year, the pride flags were up for a month. It was up for the week of Pride, the pre-Pride. I know because I literally counted the days and thought to myself, well, if it's over, why is it still going on? Well, that's enough out of you, Kevin Miller. Okay. And obviously, the city of Boise endorses this event. It's a private event. A lot of pride going into Pride. Will Kevin Miller be there? No. Will pro-life be there? Yes, and we do a bit with pro-life where he yells at people, and then the gay police come and save him from people that don't like being yelled at and called names. My question to you is that if we are going by the liberal indoctrination that we get in the media, isn't this week exclusionary for people that don't embrace the LGBTQ plus lifestyle? Think about it. Do we have a week celebrating Americanism? Well, Kevin, that's the 4th of July. And by the way, we don't need to celebrate Americanism. Okay. Do we have a week where we celebrate traditional marriage? Well, we celebrate traditional marriage everywhere. And by the way, you people with your traditional marriage, you have subjugated so many people with your prejudices. And as we've argued for years, we continue to redefine everything. And that's why we have the plus, plus, plus. As I was watching this show on CNN, you wouldn't believe how many pluses there are. It's mind-numbing that everybody has a condition these days. But when you think about, you've got Maggie talking about, well, we're going to, even though the state government says, no, We're not going to illuminate the state capitol anymore because we've had too many requests. You have the people with the pride, the priders, that say, well, we're going to do it anyway. And good luck to them. But where is the week? Where is the celebration? Where is the venue for people that do not agree with the LGBTQ lifestyle? And of course they'll be condemned. I'll be condemned for this. We all have people now. Everybody's out of the closet. The conservatives and the Christians and everybody else, we're going in the closet. But as we pass each other in the night, America has gotten much more progressive in its lifestyle ideas, right? So when we take a look at Pride Week, what happens if you're not down with it? Where is it that for you? Why would you have the city embracing one group at the expense of another? Well, Kevin, nobody else has ever applied for that. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's there. Is it time to have an adult conversation about this as opposed to the blatant promotion of it? And no one else will have enough intestinal fortitude, or maybe people are smart enough to avoid these socially controversial detonation projects, right? So during the show, we have people attacking the Mormon faith last night because of their views about homosexuality. You have people attacking Christianity because we know better than the church, right? We know better than the church. Don't they say that's the close to the end times, not to spook you out before 7 a.m. in the morning. But as you're running around being swarmed by the rainbow, isn't this event exclusionary for people that are not approving or embracing this process, the LGBTQ lifestyle, right? I mean, will the governor be there? Will our congressional delegation be there? Well, Mayor Beater will be there, but, I mean, that's not really a big get, is it? Something to think about this week. And to me, if you're going to have a Pride Week, well, then it should just be a week. But, wink, wink, nod, nod, Mayor Beater and the crew, they're sucking up to constituents. So they're going to let the flags fly for quite some time. You wouldn't see that if we were having National Gun Appreciation Week. And I don't know. In the past, talk radio show hosts, yours truly included, have always thought about, well, maybe we should have our own week. That's not really inclusionary. But I would argue that this week coming up is exclusionary for people that are not with this. No, we need to celebrate and everything else. Well, what do we really need to celebrate? Who's being oppressed? Now you will have liberals. And you remember, Ray Amai, you remember Nicole Lefevre, I believe she turned into a Republican now. A famous person, state senator, who, remember, locked herself in the closet. Nobody missed her, literally, in the State House. And all of a sudden, she had to let herself out because of the add the words. Now, maybe people will have, like the pro-marijuana people, that are very efficient at getting signatures. Maybe you're going to have people saying add the words and stuff. When people say that Idaho is an intolerant state, I argue that it isn't. Look, we have one of the biggest Pride Weeks ever, according to the news reports, that one of the largest in the Northwest. So how in the world can you say that our state is not tolerant? In fact, I would argue that we're, out of our way tolerant. We're pro-tolerance. But that doesn't mean, and again, you're not going to have people saying, and maybe that's why people are afraid to call in. You're not going to have people saying, well, Kevin Miller, I don't want to be labeled. I don't want to be labeled a person that goes to church. I don't want to be labeled a person that believes in America. I don't want to be labeled as a person that believes marriage is between a man and a woman. That's bigotry these days. No, it isn't. But shouldn't the city of Boise have enough common sense to say, well, we've got to open it to other folks? This constituency votes. This constituency is politically active, and we're going to hear about this for quite some time. But what about the other people? What about you? And what do you teach your children anymore? How do we all get along? And usually I'll have an opinion, you'll have an opinion. Sometimes, according to the young man who brought me in, not so young anymore, I don't speak enough. But in this one, it's a challenge. In this one, I think I've gone as far as I can. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. If you're tired of your voice not being heard, if you're tired of the drabble in the morning when people are talking about the new Jeopardy champion or what have you, this is a real live issue. Let's go to Pete in Mountain Home with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Kevin. I might as well jump right in and get involved in this. I think it would be great if the evangelical churches in Boise, Meridian, Caldwell, Nampa went to the city of Boise, Mayor Beater, and said, we would like to do a Christian Pride Week, and we want flags with crosses hanging all over the city of Boise, and watch Mayor Beater's head explode. Because you got to separate church and state, right?
That would be his first response, I
believe.
That would be his first response. So the answer to my question, though, is this event exclusionary if you're not down with the pride? If you're going, look, the old Bill O'Reilly line, you can do what you want in your own room, your own house, your own home, but don't force that on me. Is this event exclusionary if you don't believe in the pride?
Well, I think it is. I mean, can you imagine a group wanting to march in this parade with signs that say we support traditional marriage and family, and marriage is between a man and a woman? Do you think they'd let you march in their group? I mean, isn't that a lifestyle choice? Shouldn't they embrace that too?
Well, no, that would be bigotry, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. And I have another question. 4th of July, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, does the city of Boise have American flags hanging out for a month?
I know most cities do, but I will say this, and this is my bias, Pete. I will tell you the pride flags stay out all the time. I don't see the American flags out as much as I do. Now, I see them in other parts of the state, but I don't see them around here. I could be wrong.
Yeah, and do they have the POWMIA flags hanging up there anytime?
I know the city of Boise sticks it to the people that fund the 4th of July parade. I know that firsthand. At one time I was the Grand Marshal, the co-Grand Marshal, and the city of Boise sticks it to the 4th of July people. They're very unfriendly to do business with. They're very unfriendly when it comes to the veterans. In fact, a few years ago, we disclosed the city of Boise, they were charging the veterans for the Veterans Day parade to pick up the trash.
And I'm willing to bet you that the Veterans Day parade doesn't leave anywhere near the trash as the Gay Pride Parade does, because usually when you have a liberal event in a big city, there's garbage everywhere afterwards.
Is there a world for the non-gays in the Gay Pride Week? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm kind of like you said, I don't care what you do at home in your bedroom. I just don't want you telling me I have to somehow endorse something that I find to be sinful.
Well, all I have to say is I'm a little concerned because Tone Loc is coming in for the Boise Music Festival, and he has that song, Funky Cold Medina. I don't know if he's going to be booed off the stage when he says, quote, ain't no plans with a man. This is the 80s, and I'm down with the ladies.
Shocking. Just shocking. Couldn't even say that?
Couldn't say that song today. So, Pete, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tone Loc, he might be in trouble. This Boise Music Festival. Patriot Ray, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Patriot Ray.
Hello. Good morning. What a great day. It's beautiful out there.
It is.
So go ahead and label me a Christian. because I love that. Label me a heterosexual, because I am. Label me married and happily married to a woman, not a man. Grateful to be in America. But they, in the beginning, many years ago, I had a friend who was gay, and he's still a friend, as far as I know. I haven't seen him in years. But he said he just wanted to come out of the closet. I said, no, you don't. You want to have everything. You want to have marriage. You want to have, oh, no. We just want to come out and not be ostracized, and we can buy a home or whatever without any problems. We want to be able to rent a home. No, that's not true. And I'm seeing it happen. It's not true. They want everything. They want to go beyond, and that's wrong. I don't hate them. I don't agree with their lifestyle. Never will. I believe they are good people at heart, but I think they're wrong on their choices of their living styles. So,
well, but back to the city of Boise being down with this. Is that exclusionary to other groups and other individuals that don't get the same warm embrace? I mean, look, you just said you're a Christian, you're a man of faith, and you're entitled to your beliefs. You're entitled to that. Does that mean that if you say, look, my faith tells me I'm not down with the rainbow, does that make you a bad person?
No, it shouldn't.
Where's the tolerance?
And they will yell and scream at you and call you all kinds of names. You know, the thing is, they keep saying the hate is on our side. It's always been on their side. They scream and holler about every little thing. And if you don't identify them correctly, if they're saying they're a woman when they're a man, and if you don't identify them correctly, there are people being sued for that. There are people being fired because of it. I mean, this is ridiculous. It has gone way off the deep end.
And you know something? We're right there with them. Patriot Ray, thank you for the call.
This ain't the 80s. We ain't down with the ladies. It's 2010. We're down with Kevin Miller and the men.
You're listening to Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get back to the phones. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Hank, good morning.
What a contrast we've had in Boise. You know, you go back to the year 1955. I know that's a long time ago, but the Idaho States led a charge against homosexuality in Boise. And the editorial was entitled "Stamp Out the Monster." There's homosexuality corrupting our youth, and we had a series of arrests that got national attention, even up to Time magazine in 1955. We had a city councilman, Buck Jones, who ran on the campaign of cleaning up Boise of homosexuality. We had our last Democratic sheriff, Data County, Doc House, was busy arresting gays throughout the city for a year and a half. It took about a year and a half for the clamor to finally settle down.
Well, and that's what they call progress. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave.